happening? It's another episode of The Next Fix, you guys. Today, we've got my new friend here, Jim, author and actor, veteran, a very long resume of very exciting titles, right? And so, as we typically do here, we look at the journey, right? Like tough times make great people. And so we're going to touch on some of Jim's rock bottom moments, and then of course what developed as a result of that. And so Jim, hey, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thank you for having me, Ryan. I really appreciate the time. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Jim. And so I want you to kind of, like I mentioned, like we love to know, like, well, when did the shit hit the fan, brother? Like, what did that look like for you, man?
Honestly, in general, I can really trace it all the way back to the beginning. 4 years old. When I was 4 years old, I had a very poignant moment. My parents took me to midnight mass, and for whatever reason, the concept of eternity just clicked. If there's no end, there could be no middle. If there's no middle, it's just a perpetual beginning. So 10,000 eons from now, even though couldn't understand the scope of time, it would be the perpetual beginning. So what do I do with forever once I've done everything more times than once, Boredom freaked me out, and I was a kid.
Right. To grasp a perpetual beginning at 4 years old. Whoa.
Yeah, and it caused me to do something. It caused me to regress in my mind, and I essentially started instinctively treating my mind like a computer. I started creating programs. My first programs were my suits and bubbles. My suits were different versions of myself. What I essentially did was I began to actively listen to people, listen to how they were built mentally and emotionally. I would copy a version of them as me inside of myself. So I would make a version of them as me to see through the world through their eyes. From there, I would create what I refer to in my bubbles. My bubbles were like the holodeck in the Star Trek universe. They could be anytime, any place, anywhere in the world. What I didn't realize at the time was I essentially was doing was creating proving grounds for myself inside of my head that I could experience the world before I experienced the world out in the world. So this is kind of how I marched forward.
This is wild, brother. Suits and bubbles, which is super awesome, and it is what a great way to paint the picture of like an approach, right? A mindset. Right. Okay. So go ahead. Forgive me. I'm just thinking out loud. Like, but yeah, what a interesting and very. I'm interested, man. So all right. So okay. So you're doing this at a very young age, right? And then you're applying this in your kind of. Maybe not assessment and not judgment so much as your observation of people, right? You're observing people, and then you're using the suits and the bubbles to kind of gain a perspective that you feel aligns with.
Yeah. Well, two of my birth gifts were curiosity and creativity. So it was the curiosity that drove me forward and the creativity that allowed me to move forward. But going on as I grew up, like dealing with substance and stuff like that, my first, I guess, experience wasn't a bad one. But when I was a little one, it was like grandparents let me try beer for the first time because I thought it was just a soda. I didn't realize what it was, and I tried it, and it was just disgusting. Right. So it kind of repelled me for beer. But when I first got into like teenage years and started trying alcohol, I went to hard spirits because I remembered the beer I didn't like. So I started being like a whiskey drinker. And then I had connections to alcohol, to acquiring alcohol. So I kind of became like a de facto bartender in a sense because I would have all this liquor, all these things. So I would go to the parties, even affluent parties where I shouldn't have been able to get into. But because, now I had all these alcohol and I could make drinks, even though I was level 1 bartender. I was trash, but I had the goods. That's all that mattered. And I could get them drunk. So that was my first experiences in the world of drinking. And then again, that led to like marijuana and stuff like that. And then as I got into the Marine Corps, I was able to, drugs I can put away. That wasn't a big issue. Alcohol was allowed because you're a jarhead. I did have trouble in there, but it was alcohol related trouble, but it wasn't in the common typical way. Both my Article 15s were alcohol related. My first one was because
Article 15. Hold on, brother. I don't know what the hell that is.
It's like the one step before a court martial. So wow. It's like, it's an administrative thing that your command can do so they don't have to court martial you.
Got it. But you're acting up. That's what that means. You fucked up. And they were like, all right.
No, it was one of those things where I was trying to get out of my command and they found a way to shut the door on me. Because like when you break down the incident, it's not especially as a Marine. I had split. Came back from a successful operation. I was a corporal. I had 2 non-NCOs that were a private and PFC. And as a reward, I got him a 6-pack of beer and let him split it in the barracks room. during a field day. And I wasn't in the room at the time, and an officer came by, saw him. One was his Marine. He knew he was 19 years old. I got
Wow.
in trouble for that. Yeah. The second one was, again, alcohol related, and it was just more back to the bartender thing, but they were not out of control. I got in trouble because I was running a bar out of my barracks. I wasn't charging people. People just started giving me alcohol. And after a while, I'm like, man, I got a bar here. So I started just mixing drinks when they came in and giving them out. But being a Marine in barracks, there's a certain strict limit of how much alcohol you could have. And I had like 19 fifths, 29 pints. Like, I mean, it was an obscene amount of alcohol. I was running a bar at it. So I got in trouble for that. But the one thing I didn't like is they sent me to Alcoholics Anonymous classes. And it was one of those things where, I mean, I appreciate them. I understand the significance, but I didn't like the fact that I had to stand up and say I'm an alcoholic, because I appreciate there's certain connotations to that. And it's like, if I'm an alcoholic, why can I sit here with like 2 bottles of rum that have been sitting over there for like a year now that I haven't touched? I've never needed the need or desire at all to have alcohol. I've been around it at all. I've just never been drawn in or hooked in by it. So I didn't like that whole aspect. But as I kind of grew up from there, I got out of the Marine Corps, and I kind of tripped into acting. The acting thing happened when I was working in this restaurant, Lone Star Steakhouse, and I just got out of the Marine Corps. So I was like a 20 something honorary Marine. And there was this girl over there who's rolling silverware talking about how difficult her voice lessons were. And I was like, real seriously, let me talk to you about difficult, honey. And then she just popped up and she's like, I bet you couldn't do 3 weeks of voice lessons, soldier boy. And her presence just kind of got me. And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, okay, word. Yes. So I went out. I live in a small town in Athens, Alabama. Huntsville's the next big town over. I went over, found a voice coach, and I'm like, I'm going to take 6 weeks to show this girl. And then I remember after the first lesson, I was just taken because the way he handled me or whatever, it just, and the way he made me sound, I was just taken back by it. So I was like, I'm going to try this out. Then he put me in a chorus, and they got me into a play, and it just started snowballing. From 2000 to 2005, I had like 30 different credits in a wide variety of things. I had my first professional gig was in the chorus of an opera. Like I said, it was
Nice.
a wide variety. And like I had a booking rate of about 80 to 90%, which is unheard of. But again, it's because I've been building these techniques since a child. My suits were essentially characters. My bubbles were a version of Stanislavski's magic gift, which I'll explain later. So I was using acting techniques without knowing I was using them.
Before you were technically an actor,
Yes,
right?
yes, I had just tripped over them on my own. Um, Getting from there, I kind of went to New York from that point. And then it was 2005, 2008 is when I did my first lead role in a SAG film called Hunger. And I was opposite this actor, Lyndon Ashby. I don't know if you ever saw the 1990s Mortal Kombat film.
I never could make it through the actual films, brother.
I get it.
It wasn't what you would call like, grade A, but I get it. And I understand the
To
fan.
me, I'm a Gen X. The thing that made the 80s great was it was awesomely bad. And that's, to me, was Mortal Kombat. It was awesomely bad. But Johnny Cage's character was Lyndon Ashby, and that's who I was playing opposite against in this moment. Now, I was off camera. He was on camera. It was focused on him. And I remember when they yelled cut, he reached over and shook my hand like I pulled his kid out of a fire. And I couldn't understand what happened. It took me a minute. And it took like a couple of weeks for me to realize, but essentially what happens in moments like that is when the actor is off camera, they're just blah, 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 just saying the lines. They don't care. They're not on camera. Well, though I wasn't in my character, Alex, because of my lifestyle, I was present in the moment and I was giving him back what he needed, because when you give back, that allows your scene partner to give a better performance. So I
Right.
was allowing him to give his best performance because I was with him 100%, even though I wasn't my character. And that's when I realized that what I said, how my suits were characters, my bubbles were magic gift. And I realized this is all teachable, because we've been treating the spirit like it's this, analogous thing, and just, it's intangible. I'm
Right.
saying it's tangible. 100 years ago, people put labels to these things, because when you appreciate what an actor's art is, when you have a metal worker, they work with metal. A glass worker works with glass. A musician with instrument composition. An actor's marble is the human mind and emotions. People dealing with substance abuse are struggling with these things. When I came up, growing up as a kid, I've been around cocaine, speed, stimulants lots of times. They had no effect on me because my mind goes so fast because I've sped it up through my mind.
Mhm,
And a
mhm,
commonality I hear with people recovering, you hear a lot, is I needed to fill a void.
mhm. Yeah.
I've never had to fill that void because I've been filling it since I was 4. So
Right.
none of these things had effects on me in those ways. Now,
When
granted,
you're
no,
talking about speed and coke and shit
yeah,
like that, right? Like
alcohol,
this,
all of that
right,
stuff. No substance ever was able to take a hold of me because there was nothing to fill.
right,
So it's like it was an experience for me, but it didn't have that same thing that so many people, friends that I've known, where it took hold of them because they didn't have anything to fill. So now they were feeling like that void was kind of filling up where it was, but it was all negative energy. So I'm just presenting the fact that if we start teaching this to people at a young age, we stop the problem beforehand. But now, even people who are affected, if they learn it, they can build themselves and start filling that void with positive things.
right, right, right. Now, wholeheartedly, right? I agree with what you're saying, especially what you're talking about with the spirit, and of course, this approach, right? It's super awesome. As far as its uniqueness, and now it seems high level, right? Like it seems high level. It seems like you've kind of worked at this art. But I am curious, though, right? Like you had mentioned, right, before we got on camera, you were saying that like Rock Bottom is kind of a neighborhood that you've lived in, So I guess I'm seeing all these great things, brother. I'm like, oh man, like people are shaking your hands. But I mean, did it get messy, or like how did it look like as far as far as your path? I'm curious. Like, what did it look like as far as with the acting and stuff like that, right? So you're in New York at that period of time, and you're starting to get this kind of mirrored. Obviously, Lyndon, he tells you that how grateful he is for you to be participating across from him in this particular stage. But so yeah, I'm curious, man. Like, all right, so when did
A
this
lot of
shit get sour
manipulation.
on you?
Because the
Huh?
thing is, I give myself so much. Like even during the acting thing, if it was a left turn, right turn, if I took a left turn, I guarantee you my name would be in lights.
Oh, I see.
My right turn was following my mentor at the time, who I didn't realize was manipulating me, taking advantage of me. So my problem wasn't substance abuse; it was friendship abuse. Because in
Wow.
my perspective, friendship, the R is generally silent. So this cat, he got it. He saw that I was something, so he kept
It
me
took
going.
it took a second. Is fiendship?
Yes, yeah.
Fiendship, right? It took me a minute. You gotta slow down for me, brother.
All
All right,
right.
so fiendship. All right, okay, man. Fiend. What a very sharp word, right? Like,
But it's
okay,
but
so
when it's
you're in a
betrayal,
fiendship.
yeah, it was because he was giving me stuff to kind of weigh me down to hold me back. Like when I tried to find an agent, he was like, "No, no, you don't need that." And he kept giving me reasons. He only allowed me into a certain circle, and it's like poignant moments. When I was in New York, I wrote and produced and performed in my own play on off Broadway. Now it should have been a lot big. Yeah, they do it by size, so it was like it was a small venue. It was like 77 seats, so it was like four offs.
Right, right,
It's
right,
like
right.
if 500 seats, it's Broadway, or like 500 to 1,000. But I was in Midtown Manhattan. I wrote, performed, and produced my own play. And the thing that blew most people away was when I wrote the first line. From the moment I had the final night, 5 months had passed. And everyone was like, "How did you do it so fast?" And the thing was, I wasn't smart enough to know I shouldn't be able to. But I kept asking him because he was like a second father to me. I was like, "You're gonna come down and see the show. This is my show. I'm putting everything into it." I mean, I was a black box theater, but I didn't know the difference of black box, so I built a full stage. Because that's how ignorant I was. But it cost me a lot more money. And then he's like, "No, I can't make it in town. I can't make it in town." Yada yada yada. I later found out that he was in town the week of. He was down in the village. He could have come up. He just didn't want to.
Wow.
He was friends, really good friends with my most favorite actor at the time. This actor passed away, but he would take me to this actor's apartment building, and he knew like at the time, and he would have me sit outside like 2 to 3 hours at a time while he went up and talked to him, and I just sat in the stoop. And it's like knowing that, because at the time, it didn't seem like a problem to me. But looking back, I can see the sheer manipulation of it. That you
Wow.
knew this person was like a god to me, and you could have introduced him to me like he was your friend. Just, hey, this is my guy. Just, he's an actor. Maybe not even put me in something, but just give me some advice or just let me meet him. But never just have me sit out like a dog.
Yeah, bro. Like, so, I've never been in that particular realm of acquaintances, but it doesn't seem to me like there's any shortage of people that use that particular kind like that. Especially, of course, we hear a lot more like with women, right? Like, of course, there's the producer and then the young, of course, that dynamic. But here you are expressing it's a similar dynamic. I mean, obviously he's not like touching it or nothing, but it's the same thing. He's
Yeah,
manipulating
absolutely.
you. He's manipulating you to get power, to control you, and then of course gain from you, right? And so you're basically right. You're in a fiendship, which I'm stealing, by the way, as far as a
Absolutely. Please,
term.
please go for it.
And so, all right, man. So like, I. So this is where it seems ugly, brother. Because I mean, yeah, you're right. Looking back, I'm looking at it from the outside in. That messed up, brother. You're just sitting in the car, praying he's gonna bring you up, and he doesn't.
I just got to the same thing because in my first book I talk about it, I refer to him as Obi-Wan Arnold. I got another book that idea I want to talk about a culture engine, but now I wasn't going to write it. But this last experience, this dude I spent 3 years building this guy's dream. He wanted to build a hobby shop, a game store, and he didn't have anybody else's. I was his number one guy, his right hand man. The messed up things this dude cat did to me, like he would send me out every day in my truck to run errands for him to the tune. Like I just, the job I had before that was as a mail carrier. So I had the ticker on and I just left the ticker on. Over 2.5 years, I spent $5,000 of my money on gas for the job. I bought $2,200 worth of product and I figured if I could sell it for double, we would make, profit. We ended up selling most all of it, but we sold $3,500 worth. So he made his money back, but he never paid me back. He constantly verbally abused me and I got him because the thing is, it was very much like you said, relationships. It was very much a husband and wife relationship. He was the husband, I was the wife. He was putting me in my place. But the thing was, I people always mistake me. They mistake me for a beta because I'm very timid, and because I'm so in tune with my darker side that I hold it back. So they kind of use me to the point where I'm like, I stand up, and once I do, they drop back, and that's what he did. But it was like there was so much of it. But I got the point was that because I had that, I got him to admit in an email that he treated me like a punching bag. And he was like, I know I treated you like a punching bag. I could have treated you better. And that's where I kind of snapped on him, like, you could have treated me better, because it's like it wasn't even an apology, but it was 3 years of building this guy's dream where he yelled at me for putting screws in the wrong place. Yet,
Weird.
yeah, but he didn't have a problem because we were running a cafe as well as a gaming studio. And we had two employees who were in the gaming area prepping food. And I'm like, that's a food violation. We could lose our 100 score. He didn't care. We had another employee who sold a car we bought for $300. She sold it for $200. So we lost $100. He didn't care. But he's trying to make me perfect. And there was like I said, when you put it all together, you see this abuse over 3 years. And this is just a little bit of it. And it's like,
That's gnarly, brother. But like let's touch a little bit on, because another thing that you had kind of mentioned is what, again, this mindset, this approach, this mentality that you've developed, and from even an early age, as you mentioned, about 4 years old, and kind of having these tools, right? And so when you bring up like people, and from what you've noticed, people that may be struggling with drugs and addiction, right? Like, how could it be, like, what is it exactly that you stumbled upon as far as this mindset and approach that you wanted to share, right? You're like, you've mentioned you want to bring this message to the world, right? So when did you really start honing that, and what does it look like?
honing it was a long process. What I looked at, it'd probably be a lot quicker to get to. It took me a long time to hone it. I taught it in schools to kids. I wrote a book about it. I just started the podcast thing. But to hone this skill, I want to say it like this. It's kind of like you tell people who want to ground themselves in the moment. This is how you ground this as a character, as an actor. This is how I ground my character in a moment. In real life, you're your character. So use the same skills to ground you in the moment. Now, this is the Stanislavski system. It's 7 questions, but I want you to figure it like it's kind of like a submarine in the ocean. It can't see anything, can it? It has no idea where it is. How does it figure out what it is? It sends a ping out, uses sonar. That ping bounces off things, brings back information, lets you know where whales are, lets you know where submarines are, where the ground is, where the surface is, ships up there, depth charges, whatever. That's what the Stanislavski is. Anytime you get lost in emotion, a moment, ping, Boom, you instantly ground yourself. 7 questions. Number one, who am I? This is the moment in relation to you. Number two, where am I? This is the moment in relation to the environment. Number three, when is it? This is the moment in relation to time. Like, am I about to talk to my boss about something difficult right before he eats? Am I about to get on the road before rush hour traffic? Be aware. Number four, what do I want? This is the moment in relation to purpose. Number five, why do I want it? This is the moment in relation to desire. Number six, how do I get it? This is the moment in relation to action. And number seven, what's in my way? This is the moment in relation to obstacles. You take these 7 questions and they're not absolute. You can add, you can take away, you can refine them, tailor them to you. The point is having a system that you can ping out at any moment to ground you so you're not lost in the moment. So you're not looking for another fix. You're fixing yourself into that moment. So
Right.
you're not alone.
So this is so you basically you would apply these 7 questions in the very moment when you see trouble, when you recognize an issue, right? Like for instance, somebody that is, that's about to use, right? So they have been, 3 weeks dry or sober, right? And then this is something, a tool, right? 7 questions that they would apply in the moment of when they're starting to think like, oh shit, wait a second, I'm thinking about relapsing here. Is that the idea?
Yes and no. It's kind of like this. If I'm going to go to a bodybuilding competition, I'm not going to the gym the day before. I'm saying this is a lifestyle.
Okay.
Okay? You live this way. And I know it sounds difficult at first, but so is driving a car. The first time you got behind the wheel of a car, it was clumsy, it was goofy, it took you a minute. But now I'm sure we've all experienced that where you drove someplace and you don't even remember getting there.
Right.
That's a
And
mental.
not, well, hey, you got to be careful of the people you're talking to here, because some of these people, they don't remember they got there. They're like, shit. And it's like a week later. They're like, like, wait a second. But no, I get what you're saying, right? Because what happens is that like our reticular activating system, right? So what we focus on, what our minds are paying attention to, because we don't pay attention to everything. There's no possible way. It'd be a sensory overload. So like even our eyes are meant to aim. And so when we aim, right, we're kind of blurring out everything to the sides so that we can get to where we're aiming at, right? And so I see what you're saying, but yes. So all right. So it's not, well, I feel when you said yes and no, I get it, right? Like it is something that could be applied in the moment when the thoughts of relapsing may be coming about, but should also be something that you build as a habit, either daily. And ironically, check this out, man. 3 of those questions I do journal when I write every day, right? If you want to call it a journal diary, whatever the hell you want to call it, is so useful, such a valuable tool. And the questions that I visit every time: who am I? What do I know? And then what do I desire? Right. So 3 that kind of fall in line. Yours is a little bit more comprehensive. Right. Okay. So then when did you start really applying the 7 questions like in your life? Right. Like,
In my life around 2008-ish. I mean, I applied him as an actor beforehand. I Between 2003, when I first got introduced to Stanislavski, in 2008, it was strictly just about acting to me. And I kept doing this thing called hiccuping. And hiccuping was just when I was trying to, because I didn't like using my suits and bubbles because I felt like I was cheating. I felt like I was being a fake actor. I didn't, it was irritating to me. So I tried to learn it the hard way, the way everyone else learned it, through the system. That's when I was using it that way. It was 2008 when I realized I wasn't hiccuping. I already had the techniques in me. They were the same techniques. I was
wait,
just,
hold on. You got to explain what is hiccuping? What is it?
okay. Hiccuping was when I was in a performance, if I wanted to be better at the performance, because I didn't, excuse me, if I wanted to be better in the performance because I didn't understand the acting techniques, I would rely on my suits and bubbles. And to switch from suits and bubbles to acting techniques mid performance caused a little hiccup. So it jammed me up a little bit in performance. And I didn't like the way that happened because it jarred my performance. And I didn't realize I didn't need to switch up because my suits and bubbles were my version of acting techniques. I didn't need to do the other stuff because I already knew how. Between 2003 and 2008 is when I was using Stanislavski strictly for acting. But after 2008 is when I realized, oh, no, this is a lifestyle now. I've been doing it along, just add more to it, add for vocabulary to it. Because before 2008, I didn't really have vocabulary for the things I was doing in my mind because one, I had no one to talk to. If I had no one to talk to, why do I need to give it vocabulary?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So again, I want just to refresh my mind because I was so fascinated by I mean, I want to make sure that I'm grasping it, like the suits and bubbles thing. The suits are your personas,
There are different versions of me. They're me
right?
100 because I get that a lot. People's like, "Which one are you? What's your true self?" And I'm not a fan of what's your true self because it's like I wouldn't wear a tuxedo to the beach because there's no version of me that fits in every situation.
That's dude. That is such a. It is such a conundrum, right? Because it's not that like I don't think people should be true to themselves. However, you'd be a fool. All right, let's use this as an example. The I keep it real guy, right? Like when I've worked with people and like, well, I keep it real. I'm like, listen, I suggest you don't keep it real when you're talking to the owner of a company that has a contract with us. If you keep it real, you're going to be kept broke and fired, right? Like you're not, you can't, you won't talk to a judge or a priest the same way you talk to your boy or it's you'd be
Code switch.
foolish. What's that?
You code switch. People don't want to say it out loud.
Yeah.
It's a form of code switching.
Yeah, and you got to do it. It's not wise to be, if your true self curses like a sailor and you do that in court, you're going to suffer. Like, okay, you were your true self, I suppose, but now you're now paying a price. And so I agree with that wholeheartedly. But so okay, so these suits are these, like what I imagine it's like a persona. They're different versions of yourself that are applicable for different circumstances.
Yes.
And so, okay, so that's the suits. And then the bubbles, that seemed a little bit trickier where you were kind of taking on, what's that?
It's like the holodeck in Star Trek. That's the best way to
Yeah,
describe
but
it.
I mean, hey, forgive me, man. You owned
Go ahead.
a gaming shop. I don't know shit about Star Trek or what.
It's an environment. It's basically, it can be any place, anytime, anywhere. It's just an environment in my head. That's why I call it a bubble. It's a world I can step into wherever I like, okay, how many people go into job interviews for the first time when they go to the job interview? When I go to a job interview, I've been in that room 100 times already.
Okay. Right. Okay.
So I'm
Yeah.
saying these are just thought experiments. I've just created a proving ground for myself to have these thought experiments where most people never bother to. And I did it accidentally.
And again, it's a very advanced way of being. And so when I'm looking at it from the perspective of somebody that is in recovery, right? Like it's imperative that if you are in the trenches, and it's so fucking hard at first, to like see yourself not in the environment that you're in, but it eventually has to become something that you do. Meaning like an addict, or in my case, addict and an alcoholic as well, right? Like my time frames of what the environment I could put myself into wasn't even 4 hours into the future. Well, it was about 4 hours. Like that's all I can imagine myself, like thinking about a year into the future and about where I could be and what I may be able to accomplish, like nearly impossible, right? So depending on where you're at in that stage of recovery, it gets easier. However, what I'm agreeing with you about is that it's imperative that you start to run yourself through a possible future that isn't the former addict and alcoholic. You've got to start doing those thought exercises, like you said. You've got to start stretching yourself into something mentally and in your imagination. You've got to start bringing yourself to another place, being another person. You have to, and you have to start there. And there's all kinds of different ways. Like when you mentioned vocabulary, there's all different ways that you can describe this. Some people say fake it till you make it. I feel like that's not like
Well, I
it
think
takes away the power.
that's the because if you look at the 2100 years of Western acting, the first 2100 years are that fake it till you make it. That's what people think acting is: pretending, asking, representation. It's the last. There's 300 years in between where, like Victorian Shakespearean era, where it led to naturalism. But the last 100 years, like 1900 with Konstantin Stanislavski, that's when it became philosophical, and that's what people don't realize. It's like what you're saying now. Well, people will tell me all the time, you've accomplished so many goals. I've never seen it that way because I've never had goals. The beautiful thing about things like the Stanislavski system, it's about the moment. It's about the
Yeah.
step at your feet. So you don't have to focus 4 years out. You focus on the moment, every moment you're in. So you only have to focus on that one step in front of you. Forget about the rest. Because if you can control the moment, you can control your life because the future's in the future. Can't reach it. Past is already written. All we have is the moment. So learning to control it is what allows us to change.
Yeah. Yeah. And so would you argue that what you're proposing is like the best method that you found to change?
Absolutely, because it's like I said, these are the tools. The people who created these tools and techniques, they're not get rich schemes. They're not something created to make money. These were artists trying to perfect their art. Their art just happened to be the human mind and emotions and how to change it into any other kind. Because that's the job of an actor, to be any other human being truthfully in the moment. And it's like even more techniques. So like I said, this is just one. If you look at Meisner, teaches you how to read behavior. Being an addict, recovering, you need to read behavior for deception. How do you know somebody's not going to, offer you something or being around that crowd? So being able to read behavior, you see it coming beforehand so you can know to avert it. Hagen teaches you these exercises as well. Like I said, there's so many just laying over there. Or if you ever feel insecure, learn improv. Improv teaches you how to think on your feet so you can be sharp and you can hang around a different crowd.
Right, right. And now again, like this is all so high level, right? Like, man, and I've told, man, 100%, I respect improv. I respect anybody getting on a stage for that matter. And so I guess like walk me through an example here, right? Like, okay, let's call it I'm a year sober, but I'm still like walking the fence. Like, what would you say is like as a good routine or good regimen to kind of make this a part of my life? Like walk me through like how this would be applicable.
It does tune in a lot because there's a lot of acting is all about circumstances. Circumstances in that situation, like, okay, where do you live? What kind of neighborhood? Like, what's around you? Do you have good places to go? Or is there, like, there's a lounge down to the street, but on the other side of the lounge is a library. So I got to cross this lounge. I'm a drinker, but I got to cross the lounge every time I go to the library. So it's being aware about things like that. So having situational awareness lets you know, okay, maybe I'm not going to go that way. Let me go the long way around and walk around the park so I don't have to cross the lounge. Yeah, it's longer, but it's creating that routine, being aware of where the negative areas are or the things that can draw me back into that lifestyle. Where do my old friends hang out? Do I need to move neighborhoods just to get away from that? So it's understanding that if you want to get to recovery, you have to play that active part. And that active part is learning, what is my plan? What is my purpose? How do I get there? And where are the obstacles? Because the obstacles are always what pull people who have substance abuse back in. They're not big things; they're little triggers.
Right. And so wild, man. Like I used to go to the here in Orlando, Florida, right? There's Publix. It's a grocery store that a lot of them have a liquor store like separated, but kind of part of it. And I will walk on the outside. I'm not even in the liquor store. And I don't even know. I don't know if it's actually the liquor. I don't know what I smell, but it is an odor that even walking by the building, I can smell it. And right, I think it's some kind of cleaning solution that they happen to use, cleaning that particular kind of Publix liquor store. Like whatever it is, man, boom, my brain, it like goes. I can like, it's like I'm living there again, right? Because I used to go into that store, I'd get a bottle of vodka, I'd go right into the bathroom, I'd drink, I don't know, a quarter of it. I'd probably throw up, right? And then I'd try to get it back down. I mean, that process, that memory, it would, when I smell that odor, right? That's what you're talking about. One of these obstacles, one of these triggers. Like what is something like that? And now, of course, I don't act on it in the negative sense, but I do remember it. I mean, it's so vivid to me. And so like that would be something like what you're talking about. Like, if I were at an earlier stage in my journey, my recovery journey, which I had to avoid to be even near that store. Walking by it wasn't even an option for me. But even now, fast forward 6 years later, man, that odor still hits me. So, again, kind of going back to what you're saying, obstacles and triggers, and then that's what's sad though. A lot of that's a whole other part of recovery is identifying those things, because a lot of times you're not aware. And so, but being like you mentioned, situational awareness, right? Situational awareness, like when you are kind of in a danger zone or where you're too close to some of these obstacles, applying these 7 questions could probably get you out of a tight bind. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely. And two, just adding on to what you said about that moment, think about another moment that kind of mirrors that people commonly have with music. It's like, man, I heard this song and it just whipped me right back to this moment. a commonality I have found is like in that moment when you were smelling, had that, what was your emotional state? What were you feeling? Because that's what brings people back. That's what ties people to moments is your emotional state. What were you feeling in that moment? So when you smell it, it's not just the memory. People remember the song. It's that emotional state that draws you back. It's kind of like the difference when you're listening to an opera and you're listening to this amazing, proficient opera play, and it's great. And by the time you leave, the first thing you're thinking of, where am I going to drink afterwards? But if you go to another opera, that's the production value's less, it's not as much, but they're true artists. When you leave, spellbinding, you're exhilarated, you're exhausted by the time you leave, and you talk about it years later. Even like going to a band, there's certain concerts where you talk about decades later. It's that emotionality that draws you in, because it's affecting your passion. It's making you feel those moments with that music and with that drink. Same way. What's your emotional state? If you get that emotional literacy and understand it, now you can look at that problem in the moment. It's like, why did I feel that way? Because this emotion connected. Where was that emotion also connected to? That's how it's a part of recovery as well, as understanding your body that way.
No, you've touched on, like you mentioned about bringing your message to the world, in this particular approach, and I guess, and you've already written a book. Like, when did you make that decision that this was to be your calling, if you will?
I have to say, because this is the jarhead in me, I understand what a charge is. And once I realized what it was, and I realized I tripped over it and no one else is doing it, I realized it was my charge. So it was about 2008 ish. So it's been a long time. And like I said, I've gone multiple different versions trying to get it out, but I failed
Oh, I
horribly.
see.
Yeah, it's been massive fail. Like the book, I put 50 grand into it. I've sold 36 copies. So that was not a success. Yeah. The acting, I was teaching in school systems, and because I'm a high school dropout, I have no business teaching, but I do have this knowledge. So I went to the school system. They let me teach. I was teaching four different classes over the week. It was about 10 hours total. And I went through a whole school year teaching it, and the teachers were blown away. Students got better. Everybody was, glowing reviews. A superintendent called me up the next year. He's like, "Yeah, we want to bring you back. We want to add two more schools." I'm like, "That's awesome. That sounds great." And he's like, "Well, yeah, we still can't compensate you." I'm like, "I can't do a second year for free, man. I just can't. I can't. I have to live."
Right. Now, I will say this about the book though, and I because when I wrote my book, and it's so funny that I've had some people tell me like, "You're just trying to make money off your book." I'm like, if you wrote a book, if you had the balls to write a book, you'd know. You're not those people making millions off of their book. That's few and far
Yeah,
between. I
like
mean, that
point
is a
zero zero 1%.
if you're writing a book, you're doing that because that is you, and to go through that process is life changing. It takes guts, it takes courage. And then, but I will say this though, it's also a key. It can open more doors, like it changes. I mean, am I right?
Well, I don't like that's my problem is I'm too ignorant because I wine taste life. Yeah, I can show you a bunch of different things that I've done, but I've never stuck with any one thing to learn the ins and outs. So I have a book, I have the key. I just don't know where the locks are.
Well, first of all, you got to start talking about it. So then tell about it. Tell us about it. Tell us about this book, brother.
Yeah, this is what it looks like. It's on Amazon right now. It's in three parts. The first part is the story in relation to my life, or the idea in relation to my life, how it came up. So it's autobiographical. The second part is the idea itself and the science, because there's a lot of science that supports this. I'm not just pulling out of my butt or just drawing it from the masters. I'm showing, like, I can point to, like, the theory of constructed emotions that supports this and whatnot. A trauma drama. Dr. Joseph Levy Moreno, theory of psychodrama, was literally pulled from acting techniques. So, like I said, there's a lot of history. And the third part is the most important part. That's the intangible toolbox. That's what I refer to it as.
The
It's got,
intangible toolbox.
yes, it's all
Right.
these mind exercises. It's got the seven Meisner technique or seven Stanislavski techniques, questions plus the magic if. It's got the three Meisner exercises. It's got all 10 Uta Hagen's exercises plus some improv stuff. And this is not all of it. This is just what's in the book. Like I said, there's a lot more to this stuff that's out there. I'm just trying to present some of it. And in that intangible toolbox, it explains how we use it as actors alongside how we can use it in life with exercises. So there's actionable techniques all throughout the third part. So it's like you can take these things and apply it to your life in various ways.
Oh my God. That is now okay. So what was the title? Hold it up again. Was it Your
Sorry.
Best Selves?
It's called All Your Best Selves, and again, it's negating the idea of
All your
finding
best
your
self.
best selves. Yeah, it's creating a wardrobe of selves that you can slip in and out to as you go through life.
Right. And believe me, I'm behind that like 100%. And people that aren't, like, you're probably paying a price for that. Like if you're not aware that you put on a different self every time, every different conversation that you have, and the more that you're able to be malleable, like socially, the more valuable that you can be. Right. Like when you kind of adjust, it's not changing who you are inside. It's adjusting how you interact, the words that you use, the clothes that you wear, like all of that. It's imperative that we can kind of mesh with people. Usually if you want to teach them something or help them, there has to be some kind of connectivity, right?
It helps you transfer an idea much better.
Of course, right? Like, of course. And it's very seldom that somebody that if you're like, well, I'm just me and I'm completely different than you, the chances that you and that person are going to exchange ideas effectively, very low, right? Like, so you've got to find this common ground. You've got to be able to kind of mesh with that person. And that's, I mean, freaking awesome, brother. And now, okay, so what else you got going on? You've got the book. Like, what else have we got on the horizon, brother?
I got my website. I just started social media less than a year ago. My handle's Soy Candy, SoiCandie. I put videos on there. It's a lot of miniature stuff because I'm working with miniatures as well. So it's that plus I'm putting out my ideas through this book and whatnot. And my website is www.tbcenterprises.com. That's
Yeah.
TBC like Tango Bravo Charlie. You can contact me through there. My socials on there. Email, you can get me through there as well. And right
Yeah.
now, I'm just pushing towards that, and just like I said, trying to get this idea out as best I can because it's just one of those things. I feel like when we gave the world written literacy, it changed the world. When we gave the world mathematics, numerical literacy, changed the world. It's like, why wouldn't it change the world if we gave them a systemic way to gain mental and emotional literacy? You know,
Systemic way to gain emotional and literal and mental literacy. I love that, brother.
yeah, it's just a new form of literacy for mankind that these people accident because they didn't know what they were creating. It was just tools and techniques for acting. And I'm just saying it's because people's like, what do I need acting techniques? It's like if I got a screwdriver and I'm unscrewing a toy Tonka truck, someone's saying, well, why do I want to use that screwdriver on my Ford F-150? I'm like, it's just a screwdriver, throw away the Tonka truck. The problem with acting is it gets in the way. This is about how to be. These are the tools and techniques of how to be human.
Yeah.
So all the things like in on the stage, insecurity is stage fright. The way you get rid of stage fright is knowing the moment, knowing the beats, answering all the questions, knowing your lines. Life is the same way. Do you want to get rid of insecurities? Start filling in those moments inside of you that you're insecure about. Guess what? You're not going to be insecure anymore because now you have the answers.
Yeah. Dude, I think that that's amazing. I'm gonna have everything. I'm gonna have all your resources in print and stuff when we go live here.
Thank you.
But yeah, man, how about this though? Like, what would you? Okay, I want you to go over those questions again so everybody can hear it one last time because I
Absolutely.
think that it's important. And I've